Today we are doing a special type of video. I noticed on a different video of mine that a channel member, Nanced777, asked about item sorters in Bedrock Edition, that theirs was not working anymore. So today we're going to be talking about item sorters. This will work on Java and on Bedrock. I'll be showing it off in Bedrock since that was the original question. So here we are inside of Minecraft, and this is what we're going to be making, an item sorter. Already I have a whole bunch of items that is going to be sorted. Inside we have 64 diamond in there, and then all of the rest have 45 each of whatever item that is, because I'm going to demonstrate what this sorter does. So you just want to prove to you we got 64 and then 45 and everything else. And these are the items, and they can really go in any order as they are going through the system. Some of these are going to start filling up. So we got a block of iron that sorted out. We got some pickles, those sorted out. Some glass, that's all done. And then our diamond is still working. You can see it's just pulling the items right now. We're working on torches. So if I go in here and look at torches, it's placing them into the chest that is appropriate for that item. So this is a rather simple build, keeping it simple for y'all. Before we get into the exact build, I do want to mention some of the behaviors that we are taking advantage of, because I like to teach you guys. I like to impart the knowledge before we get into the build. This uses a lot of hopper behavior and a little bit of comparator behavior. So there are 4 things you have to know about hoppers before we jump in, because also one of the mentions from the YouTube member was that they have a sorter, but it's not working. So I'm gonna make sure to mention a few things that may be troublesome to folks and what might break an item sorter. So the first out of the 4 things is that hoppers have a direction, and you can see the nozzle at the bottom of the hopper, and that nozzle will point in the direction of whatever block you clicked onto to place down that hopper. So you can see the nozzles are all pointing into the center, kind of towards the sun at the moment. So you got to make sure that your hoppers are pointing in the correct direction, especially with this build. And there's some weird finicky stuff about that hopper direction. Number 2 is that hoppers will push and they will pull. So whichever way the nozzle is pointing is which way the hopper will push an item. And then the opening at the top is how a hopper will pull an item into its own inventory. And the main thing to remember is that a pull will always take advantage. It will have a higher priority than a push. So in this situation, I'm going to remove this hopper underneath, and we're just going to add a few blocks. So we're just going to add 16 smooth stone. And because the nozzle direction is pointing in this way, the 16 smooth stone is eventually going to make it to the last hopper. But if we place a hopper in the middle of that, so nothing at the end, nothing at the beginning, and we'll go ahead and put 16 smooth stone in. As it heads down the line, this hopper is going to pull out of this hopper before it can push onto the next hopper, which means at the end of this line, there are no blocks, and this hopper pulled all of the blocks from the hopper above it. So to reiterate, a pull will take priority over a push. So the hopper below will always take priority over the hopper above. Number 3 thing that you need to know about hoppers is that they can be locked with redstone. So right here, I have a little bit of redstone going into this hopper. So if we do the exact same thing we did before, take 16 smooth stone and place it in this front hopper, because this hopper is locked, it will not pull from the hopper above it, which means that the destination will be along the line instead of the hopper down below. So redstone can stop that pull push procedure so that your items can continue to move on. And we're going to turn this off. So now this hopper would take priority. And the last thing you got to know is that if a hopper has lots of inventory, more than one inside of its inventory, the bottom hopper will still pull from the top hopper, but the top hopper will have enough time to push its inventory onto the next hopper. So if we take these 16 smooth stone, and instead of putting it in this first hopper, we're going to put it in this second hopper that is sharing basically an inventory with the one below it, we are going to end up with a situation where you have 8 smooth stone over here and 8 smooth stone over here, because this hopper is pushing and this hopper is pulling, and those are happening at the same time because there is more than one item in the inventory. So if you want to make sure that all of your behaviors work correctly, you need to make sure that you're only sending one item down at a time, and you do that with basically a regulator hopper. So as long as there's a hopper kind of in the front that is sending items one at a time, because that's all they do, they just send items one at a time, then it'll all be timed correctly. Let's go ahead and make this build. One of the things I love about this is tileable to infinity. So if you want to make this item sorter even larger, you can just continue on. Each one of these chests is basically a tile. So this entire build, that is one thing, and you can repeat it over and over and over again. We are going to build a very basic 4-item sorter over here in this blank area. And to get started, this is what you're going to need in terms of space. You'll need 2 blocks for your chest. Then you'll need 2 blocks for some redstone stuff. Then you'll need another block. This will be a solid block, a block for some redstone stuff, and then another block. This is the dimension that you need for just one of those tiles. So really, this only takes up 7 blocks, and then it's gonna take up however many blocks you want your build to be. We still have a few more blocks to set down in this build, but I'm just gonna start off with the base so that we know what we're gonna work with, and it'll also give us better access to some redstone as we're building. So once you start off with this sort of basic foundation design, then just go ahead and put down your chests. And I like to put them down in this configuration. That way you get a double chest, but also it only takes up 1 space. And if you wanted to, you could cut the whole front off of this build right here if you didn't need that much space. Next, on the back of those chests, you're gonna take a hopper and you're gonna place it into the chest so that the nozzle will face into that chest. Then you're gonna take a redstone torch and place it on the block that is up raised, basically. Then you're gonna take a repeater and place it facing into that torch block. So that torch that you just set on the block, that's the way the repeater faces, with no delay at all. Next, we're gonna take some smooth stone, or really it can be any stone. I use smooth stone just so you can easily see the edges and count out blocks while I'm doing a tutorial. But we're just going to place 3 blocks along the top, which will cover up both our torch and our redstone repeater. That's one of the reasons I built the foundation without the top, because now you can't reach to actually place that block there. Next, we're going to put down some comparators, and those just go down facing away. So here's the front, and they make sure to face towards the back. Now we're gonna take a hopper and we're gonna make sure to have the nozzle point into that comparator. The reason we are doing this is because if we had the nozzle facing into the block below it, it would push blocks into that block, into that hopper, without that hopper pulling. So we want to make sure that the nozzle is not going to point into any direction. We also want to make sure it's not pointing into maybe another hopper. And the only place to do that is to point it into that comparator, and that way it can't push any of its inventory into that block. It's just not possible. Now we're going to cover the rest of the exposed blocks with redstone. Just fill all of it up, except for that one right there that I accidentally did. Now you have a decision to make, because you need to determine what block is never going to be sorted. What block is easy to obtain that you're probably not going to throw through the item sorter so that you don't have it mess up your system. The reason is because over here at the completed system, we need a block that will power the comparator a little bit, but not all the way, and that will have our item that will end up being sorted inside of it. I used grass paths because I don't think I would ever use a grass path block in my, when I try to sort through my inventory. And they're relatively easy to get as long as you have silk touch, because all you have to do is make a path block and then pick it up. But this could really be anything. Maybe there's a certain type of leaf that that you're not gonna have to deal with a lot. Maybe it's a certain type of block. It could be anything at all. Maybe even redstone. If you have a lot of redstone, just make sure to never throw redstone through the sorter. Otherwise, it's going to cause issues. I'll do that. I'll use redstone for my sorting item. So what's going on here is we are making sure that the comparator will go off and will light this redstone right here, causing the repeater to turn on, causing this torch to turn off, causing this hopper to be able to pull from the one above it, and for an item to be put into the chest. So we need to make sure that we hit that number just right, and I already know what it is. If you have 41 of an item, and then you fill each one of the rest with just a single piece, and you do want to do that so that you don't accidentally have an empty spot for something to go into. So that is 44 items in total. You'll notice that my redstone here has activated. So it's activated this one, this one, this one, but not this one. And so the moment that I put some other thing in there, it is going to move it out of that situation, because what's happening off camera, because I'm inside of the menu, is that the redstone signal is expanding by 1, which causes the chain to go off, which causes an item to be pulled out of it. So technically, I guess we have more than 44 blocks. We have 45 blocks. And then whenever something gets pulled into it, then it will move down the line. So you'll have to basically burn 2 items that you're sorting, because one will always be in the hopper above, one will always be in the hopper in the middle, and then everything else will go into the chest. So if you are like really hard up for maybe diamonds, you need 2 more diamonds, you have an item sorter, there's probably gonna be a diamond in the hopper below and in the hopper above. Once you have loaded up all of the items, so we did it for the first one, we're gonna do it for the next 3. So now we have our temp item inside of all of these hoppers, and now it's time to add the final touch, which is to have just a line of hoppers that go across the top. Make sure that the nozzles are always pointing into the next hopper, and at the very end, I tend to like to put a chest there, which would grab anything that's not sorted. So you have this line of hoppers with all of their nozzles going towards the front or going towards a chest that isn't sorted. And then at the front, you're also going to want to add 1 more hopper. This is our regulator hopper that will make sure that the timing down the line is going to be good. And then we're going to add a chest on top. So this is the chest that we dump all the stuff that we want to get sorted. It goes through the line and then will come out on the chest at the end. So here is how this works. As we throw items, and remember to stay away from redstone, I'll show you what happens if you use redstone, this actual redstone dust. So as we throw items into this large chest at the top, this hopper will pull one down and start moving it down the line. If anything in down here matches, so if you have a comparator and it matches right here, it's going to grab it. So up here, once we get to here, I will pull out the whoops, no, get out of here. Okay, comparator's about ready to start going down. So right here, a comparator shows up. Before it can push it on, this one will grab it because it is possible. It's not redstone, and or it is a comparator, so it'll grab that. And then that will activate our redstone down here, which will cause the chain reaction of allowing this hopper to push items into that chest. As we move on to the next one, we have item frames in here, and all I've done is I just threw a whole bunch of items in there, so as it goes down, it'll fill this first slot. And so if it matches item frame, then an item frame will be put in here, causing the chain reaction to place item frames in there. Same thing, now we have hoppers. Hoppers are, I think, being sorted right now, so hoppers are going through, and they're ending up down here, and then eventually we will get to the next item will be repeaters. Now, in this, we have both chests and smooth stone, which are not going to be sorted. So we have repeaters showing up now. We don't have enough slots for both of those items. So what's gonna happen is, because they're not sorted, they're gonna show up here in this bottom, in this chest at the very end, which is all of the items that were not sorted. And it may have been a little bit confusing. What I did was I just threw in items without putting them into this hopper. You can determine what you want. So let's say I wanted redstone torches now to be in here. I can pull out this item frame, whoops, and place in a redstone torch. You probably shouldn't do it while things are being sorted. So here, let's remove that and remove that, put in a redstone torch. There we go. And now we can pull out all of that. If I put redstone torches in and also chests in, then the redstone torches are now going to be the thing that will fill up this area, because that item, that hopper, has a redstone torch in it instead of a chest. And like I mentioned, anything that can't be sorted will be put in the chest at the end. So that is how the basic item sorter works. Remember, this can be tileable, so if you want to continue building, you just build another chest in hopper situation and just keep it going off to the left or right. Now, what happens if I was to put the banned item, the redstone item that we are not allowed to have, into the system? What's going to happen is I'm going to put it in. This hopper's going to grab it, move it to this hopper, and then this hopper, because it has redstone as an option, it is going to grab that piece of redstone, which is going to put it into your first chest. So if you ever send that banned item down the line, it's going to replace the item that it was supposed to be, and it's going to cause you a bad day. Remember that this was set to 41. So every other one is set to 41. Now it's set to 42 because it grabbed a piece of redstone and then it continued grabbing them after it grabbed that first one. And also this first hopper slot is what it grabs from when it is pulled down below. It, grabs sort of in order like we saw with the chest over here. So if you are having troubles with your item sorter, some things to check out. Make sure that you don't have too many items up in the top, and make sure that your sorting item is there as well. You can also pull that out of the one below, because remember, it places one there as it moves it onto the chest. Another thing is to make sure that you have a regulator hopper, because if we were to, like right here, this is the chest for the comparator, but if I was to add a whole bunch of things into this right here, half is going to go down and half is going to move across. So we're going to end up with some comparators that are not in the right area. So make sure you have a regulator hopper. Also, make sure you have a place for your items to go eventually in the end, because if we didn't have that situation and we tried to throw some blocks down the corridor, they're going to start getting bunched up right here at the end, which means that the whole line is going to fill, and hoppers don't have that big of an inventory, so that could break your system as well if you don't have a place for things to go if they're not sorted out. And that about wraps it up for this item sorter tutorial. I hope that you learned a few things. I know that this was a little bit heavy on the redstone, and obviously the build is very heavy on the hoppers, so I hope you have a ton of iron in order to make this item sorter. This once again works in Bedrock and in Java. I did this entire tutorial on the Windows 10 edition of Minecraft, so it is absolutely possible in Bedrock. Thank you so much for watching this episode of OMG Craft. Please, if you enjoyed it, give this video a big ol' thumbs up. Also, make sure you subscribe for future videos, tips, tricks, tutorials, and spotlights here on OMG Craft. And big thanks to you YouTube members for supporting the channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye!